by the end of June. We had the steering committee meeting today and presented it with some applause and some objections, mostly positive responses. I have asked Sara Edin at the faculty department. My understanding is she is the editor of the IB faculty's website, and she will publish a link to the PDF version of the draft report later today or maybe tomorrow morning. She has a child that is in quarantine because of COVID, so her working day today may be a little bit restricted, but it will be available for everybody at the faculty or maybe the world later today or tomorrow morning. And then we are very pleased then that two of our international academic are here to present their observations and recommendation for the after being evaluating the IB faculty. So Christina Edström and Simon Harvey are here and will present to you. And then I think roughly then we will split it in two, so they will have 50 minutes more or less, then maybe more, depending on how many questions there are from you for the presentation and question and answer on their view on the IB faculty. And then I will present similarly then the what we internally team have been doing, and then hopefully then we will have some 15 minutes for general feedback of other questions and remarks that's not directly related to the presentations, and then we will close then at 3 o'clock. So then I'm not quite sure, but my anticipation is that Christina will then start, and then I should stop my presentation then, so that it's possible for her then to present or upload the presentation. Is that correct, Christina?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't see if I'm sharing.
No, it says end of slideshow. You must be at the end of your slideshow.
All right. Maybe it can
It's
be.
yours, or click to exit. Ah, there it goes. Yeah.
There we go. So now I have the problem that I don't see anything else but the screen that I'm sharing. I'm not a Teams person. But so we decided, we are 4 in the committee, and Simon Harvey and I could attend this afternoon. So we have split our observations and recommendations between us. We have 4 observations. I'll do the first 2. And then we have 7 recommendations, and I think Simon will do the first 3 or 4. I can't remember.
First 3, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So the observations, and let me say that we have been invited to be critical friends and honest. And I think based on the interviews that we have made, it's the culture in Norway also to be very honest, because we have had very honest reflections from the people that we have met in the interviews. And we can see that your industry representatives have been very honest too. So we love you as a sister institution, and we want to help you improve as much as possible. So our first observation is about the program perspective. And we find that when we look at the program, it doesn't appear to be vision driven, but rather it's the result of bottom-up processes. So courses and specializations and have been put into the program, and it's a little bit fragmented. We can also see that the power and resources of the program are actually not in control of the people who are whose focus is the program as a whole, but actually it's always in the hands of those who have only part of the program in focus. So it's departments, it's the single professors, etc. And the profile becomes very difficult to communicate when it is a little bit fragmented like this. And that's both communicate to the prospective students and the students that you actually have now, but it's also to employers and industry. And in fact, we heard a little worrying things that, and we concluded that courses actually seem to be included as a reflection of the organization. It's the needs of faculty and the needs and wishes of departments that seem to be in control, and it's not for the sake of the students and the program as much. We heard things like, well, the principle is that each department gets one course, or each division wants to have a course or a specialization. So it's more the needs of the organization rather than the product as a whole, if you wish. And you know that Simon and also Johan Stare, who was in the panel, they come from Chalmers, and Niels comes from DTU, and I come from KTH in Stockholm. And those are actually 3 universities that have been working very hard for the past 2 decades to establish a strong program perspective. And we could sense that it was actually very interesting for us to hear that at NTNU that shift had not happened. So the program perspective was quite absent, and you could hear from when we asked how do you think it could be developed, and people talked about single courses and things like that, and like moving Lego pieces around but not thoroughly rethinking them. And then the student perspective, we saw student and alumni feedback. We did not interview students, but we saw feedback from them in the surveys that have been made. And we could see that those students who stay in the program and graduate, they are pretty satisfied and their employment situation seems relevant and successful. They had some wishes that they could have had more digital competence, and they wanted more resemblance to working life with more team-based work in the education, for instance. But we think that some of the problems with when you do surveys like that, you will not hear the voice of those students who didn't apply for the program or who came to the program but have left it. So we could see some signs that there were problems here. And we were worried to see that the program was among the least successful ones when it comes to attracting female students. And we also saw that the program is more like a program that you leave, not one that you come to. And we did not interview the students who had left the program, but we heard faculty say that they thought it was because students didn't see it as modern. And then we noticed, this is, as we understood it, it's common for the whole NTNU model that the first year courses are very traditional and there are extremely large student groups. We have no such courses at our universities, and it's it was quite surprising. So, Simon, over to you.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Well, it's been a very interesting journey we've done with you, and we've got to talk to many, many people. We could have talked to many more, but time is a constraint as ever. But we certainly had plenty of discussions with many of the faculty members involved, and with some very good discussions there. And I think one of our observations, or the primary one there, is there is lots of bright and ambitious people out there, interest in teaching, and they've been very frank and honest, as Christina said, about they see that there is room for improvement. They see that things could be better, and they definitely, there's a good and strong consensus about that things could change and could be improved in the PUP program. And at least in the interviews I attended, we couldn't all of us attend all of them, but I heard plenty of very interesting ideas about what to teach, particularly and this is the link to both the student perspective and the industrial perspective, this need to think more about how to include digitalization and sustainability in the curriculum, and also how to teach. And that's been a very clear concern from industry in particular, that they also see a need for improving the content with project-based learning, open-ended problems, and so on. We also heard some interesting thoughts and experience with using and referring students to digital content online and YouTube. There's lots of strange things out on YouTube, but there is also lots of relevant material which can be included in teaching if you do it in a good way. So we've heard lots of good ideas there. And also that there's definitely insight that the courses must include ethics, sustainability even more than they do right now. So plenty of knowledge and awareness out there. We think that, however, that the ambition for the program as a whole is a little on the modest side. We don't see an ambition to be really out there in the forefront on the international higher education scene. And I know Christina and Niels presented this slide this morning. I think you had an additional comment about that last sentence, and I have to confess I forget what you said, so maybe you can say it again.
I forgot to.
Okay, then it was maybe not that important. Okay, then we can move on to the industrial perspective. Yes, and we did not get to meet the industrial stakeholders ourselves. We've talked to Rolf and his colleagues who have interviewed, I think it was 6 industrial stakeholders, and we've read the summary of the insights from those interviews. We think it's interesting and positive as a whole. Industry definitely thinks that the program is still doing a good job in terms of the competence of the people they recruit. But there are some concerns about the way that the teaching occurs, and with this open-ended problems lacking, working in teams much more, digitization, the awareness of the need to think in terms of sustainability for all types of projects out in industry. So I think industry definitely sees that as a need, and they definitely think that there is a clear need to develop the competence of the graduates from the PUP program to meet those future needs more. They also think that the program is lacking a clear profile, and that means it's, of course, hard to communicate the profile of the program to prospective students. And if you can't attract the right students, or not enough of them, then at the end of the day, it is a problem for competence and for training future engineers for industry. And also that the industry, of course, and I think this again, as Christina says, we like the Norwegian style. They're very direct, and industry is clearly saying they don't want superficial change by just cut and paste the word sustainability into program names, course names, and so on. They definitely want workable skills in the people that are going to hire in the future. And so we think that their input has been very good, and we definitely hope that they will be on board even as your process of change continues. I think that was our observations.
I could add perhaps that the industry are very occupied with seeing that the program is attractive to students. So I think they also, in a way, take the students' view. So I think working with them is actually really, really interesting. It's not just, you know, producing the sausages that the industry will like. It's they really care about the student perspective. Right. So the recommendations. The first one, let's see. No, it's Simon starts.
Yeah, I've become Johan now. Yes, that's right. Okay, the first one, and we thought a little about the order here, but definitely our first recommendation is this vision for the program. That there is a lot of, or it's very important to have a bold and clear vision for the program, and that of course needs to be completely aligned with the ambitions of the university as a whole. And that's what we think. I think that the PUP program really has the ambition, but they need to work on formalizing the ambition to brand its students, to train students who really master the skills needed for sustainable development and competitive knowledge in the future. And we say that this vision is very important, and we've listed 3 really strong reasons for that. First of all, and this Christina will get back to governance a little later on in the recommendations, but without a vision, you are really in trouble when you need to make choices, prioritize, guide, and really drive a process of change. You must know where you're going, otherwise you never get there. So that was the first reason. The second reason is, of course, you need to have a very clear profile and a very clear image of the program if you are out to attract the best students, and that's both national students, or domestic students, whatever you want to call them, and also international students. The higher education, as we all know, sector, it's very competitive. We're all out there competing for the best students, and the Norwegian industry is also very much an international industry. So really attracting those strong students from all over the world is very important. And attracting them in the first place is, of course, very important. It's also important that they don't get there and realize that the program is not living up to their expectations. We want to attract the students for the right reason, the right students, and to keep them there for the full duration of the program. And that's what the vision should be trying to achieve and communicate. And as Christina said, the student perspective and the employer perspective are very linked. You need to keep the communication channels up and running with prospective employers as well, so that they also know what the program is delivering, what the ambitions of the program are, and that they can be involved in that dialogue to really make sure that everyone is synced and aligned in terms of expectation and objectives. And well, these are, of course, recommendations which you've seen before, maybe, and they are essentially the overarching visions of the FTS process, which you're in the middle of right now at NTNU. Christina, don't hesitate to hop in if you think I should be underlining something else or missing something, but please feel free to do that, since there's just the 2 of us. And otherwise, we can go on to number 2, and that's internationalization. And that's important, right? As I just said, the higher education world is very much international, and Norwegian industry, Norwegian companies are also, if they are to be prosperous, also need to be active on international markets. And so we are a little surprised maybe that the education at the master's level is not consistently in English, the way I think most other Scandinavian countries have adopted that model, recognizing as a fact that at that level the language is English, whether you like it or not. And if you really want to attract both top-level students, but even international faculty, postdocs, PhD students, you really need to think carefully about the level or the language in which you deliver programs. So that's something else we think would be very important to think about. And that's important, and it's important to attract international faculty because international faculty, that's the way you keep the melting pot, the diversity, the new ideas, the inflow of new ideas. All of our Scandinavian countries are small, so you really need influx of new ideas and inspiration from other places. And in Norway, of course, NTNU is basically the major engineering training university. So you need input of ideas from outside of NTNU. And this is also in line with the FTS vision.
I could add something, perhaps.
Yeah, sure.
Just thought of it. This has to do with skiing. We had, in the old days, we had a ski champion in Sweden called Sixten Jernberg. And most of you are probably far too young to have heard of him. But he was really big in Sweden. And he had a saying that was so interesting. He said, "You can never be better than the terrain in which you are practicing." Mm-hmm. So actually a program can never be better than the stage that it's actually entering. And that's why we say that taking an international standing and international position is really, really important. And that is also to serve the local needs, the regional needs. There is no place for parochial or just looking at the local needs. Actually, so you will not be better than the terrain in which you practice.
Okay,
Simon.
Yeah, I think this is me, 5 in a row, and this was about the program profile. Yes, and I think maybe will be some discussion about this, because we heard Rolf who presented this in another forum late last week, said there had been some misunderstanding in one of the points we made here, so I will get back to that. But this is basically a recommendation which maps one of our observations which Christina presented in the beginning there, and that is that a clear program profile, the program is or must be focused on the needs of the future engineers. And the careers or career paths for future engineers are moving very fast, changing very fast. So we must be, or you must be, but it's the same at Chalmers, KTH and elsewhere, we must be training engineers for a very different world than the world of today and the world of 20 years ago. They must be very nimble on their feet, they must be very adaptive, and they must be prepared to change and switch between projects and tasks and competence areas, maybe much more than their predecessors. And that's what engineering education should be preparing them for. And also that the technology is no longer just about technology, it's also about understanding sustainability, it's about understanding the interplay of technology and ethical considerations, and students really need to handle that. So our recommendation is to create a program profile that meets those demands, and that probably means to go out there. And I know that this process has been initiated to go out there to see where are the best practices in Europe and even elsewhere. See what's going on, observe, evaluate, and think a lot about what the competition is doing, to put it bluntly. And that's not only in terms of educational methods and design of programs and curriculum, it's also about where industry is heading. Industry is the main employer of our graduates. We had this final sentence in that second block there saying that that the requirements of the program, we said they should be decoupled from the needs of the research activities. And that's maybe led to some confusion. We're not trying to say that the teaching should not be research-based. Of course, if you're educating in the master's level, then your education, your training should be research-based, but it should not be geared towards only serving the needs of the research groups at the university. That is an important distinction, because we all know most of the graduates from a university do go elsewhere. Their employment is not to stay within the university or to move elsewhere, but definitely not to stay at the university in which they graduated with their master's level. So we must be thinking a lot more broader, and that's the point we were trying to make there. And
actually that when we say industry, we of course include the public sector, etc. But
the outside world, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the profile there, of course, and we've already made this point. That must be expressed very clearly, because and this is governance again, changing things. And as Christina said, I know at Chalmers it's been a 20-year process, and 10 years were a continuous struggle. There's lots of power struggle. There is lots of resistance to change. There are lots of articulate people involved in higher education who can always defend status quo. And so you really need a profile, a program profile, and a program description and formulations which can allow the people actually in charge of the governance to really stay the course and implement change in a way which will not be permanent, because nothing is permanent, but definitely not drift back to where it was rapidly. And this is something which has also basically been formulated pretty clearly in the FTS report, particularly their recommendations numbers 1 and 2.
So maybe we should emphasize that we heard a lot of people saying that the program needs a clearer profile. But we heard it mostly like we need to change the external image of the program. We need to change the web pages. We didn't really hear we need a profile so that we can make decisions about the program, so that we can rethink what the program is about, so that we can discontinue courses and specializations. We heard it only as an image rather than something that you can base decisions on. So that's why we said it so clearly here. So when you have this vision of the program, the profile, what you want the graduates to be able to do, you will express that as intended learning outcomes on the program level. And it's important not to just focus on the content per se, the technical content, but also think about what skills, what approaches, what judgment do students need for life, to prepare them for life and for working life. And things like, so it's to go from what is the knowledge they need to also consider what is it that an engineer can do with that understanding. So we're not arguing that you take any knowledge away, but that you have to complement that with all the other things that you need to prepare for life and for working life. Having a purpose, for instance. So then when that program level vision or the intended learning outcomes on the program level, you break that down and you assign it to the course level. And then you realize those intended learning outcomes for the course using good, modern, wonderful educational methods and assessment formats, and all the time integrating the knowledge and the skills and development of the students. And we think it's actually quite important to say that the program level goals, such as sustainability, ethics, communication, collaboration. We don't think that they should be placed in separate courses, just bolted on to the curriculum. But we think those are aspects that should be relevant, that should be integrated into courses where they are relevant. And that creates a much better context for learning those things. And it's important that courses are connected to each other so that they build on each other and you get a good progression through the program. And this is actually, we only did the mapping with the FTS recommendations in the end, but it was remarkable how well it fit. So this is basically the FTS recommendations 3 and 4, which have to do with the program. Now, let's say that you do everything we have recommended so far. Then you have a wonderful program design. You have a program plan. You have wonderful thought through the courses. We think that is a great thing, but it is definitely not sufficient, because you also need an organization that has ownership of that program, and especially that has ownership of the program as a whole and not just the components of it. And that means you need a program organization that is empowered to develop the program, but also to protect it over the years from the sub-optimization that would otherwise happen. I know that everyone that we have interviewed had said, if only we had a vision, everyone would be happy to change. But that's not how it works in real life. You also need to guard that vision and make sure that it is kept alive. Otherwise, it will erode and things will go back to normal, if you wish, over time. So you need a program management who have a very clear mandate and also the control of the necessary resources. And for one thing, all the quality processes should be tied to the program. So the course evaluations are communicated to the program, and there is a dialogue how the courses should be developed. It should be the program that decides whether to start a new course or to close down an old one. And I know that this sounds like science fiction to you all, because it's not the way that you have done it previously. But we have discussed inviting the whole NTNU, I think, to go to Chalmers and see how courses and programs are managed. And the principle is basically that the courses exist for the sake of the program and its students. It's a different way of thinking. It's a whole different mindset. When faculty realize that their course has a function in the program, their course is a function bearer for some of the values of the program, that's when things can really happen. And I can send you some I've written about the Chalmers program, actually, a little. And for some reason, we came to the same conclusion as the FTS body did. Now, the 2 last recommendations are about faculty, because if you want anything to happen here, it means the faculty have to implement it. It's nothing is going to happen unless faculty are willing and able to actually do something new. And therefore, the faculty teaching competence is very important. And we actually put 2 recommendations here. One is to make sure that you build a faculty team who have sufficient teaching excellence so that you can do these things that we have been talking about. And ultimately, the conditions for creating excellent education are set by how the university values teaching competence. So when you recruit faculty, when you promote faculty, it's important to make education a very central skill that you evaluate. And this is not at all just about being able to give good lectures or something. what we mean by teaching competence is a much broader thing. It's about being able to contribute constructively to all the processes that we have discussed. The program design, making sure that the courses really create the contribution to the program that is appropriate, for instance. Using those modern teaching approaches, and it's about being able to integrate skills and judgment into your courses. So it's absolutely necessary for NTNU and the departments involved here to take teaching seriously when you hire and when you promote faculty. And while we know that the rules are basically set on the university level or the faculty level, we think that departments also have quite a lot of influence on how they are implemented in the actual cases. And one thing that we want to suggest is to rethink what is it that gives the impetus for hiring a new faculty member. I think often it's the research groups that have some money, so they want to hire an assistant professor or two. But we think NTNU has to consider, if we are going to be those world-leading excellent, have those excellent education on the international, with the international standing, what kind of faculty do we need for that? So the needs of education should also be, if possible, to start recruitment based on that. And every recruitment case, every promotion process also sends a signal to all staff. Is it worth it to engage in education or not? So I think this is a very, very important aspect to create the fundamental conditions for being able to do those things. And if I discuss the revolution that has happened in the past 20 years when it comes to program management at Chalmers, you can also see both at KTH and Chalmers that this has really changed. People know that teaching has a very important role in their career, so you can't ignore it, otherwise you will actually not be promoted. Every such case is really interesting because everyone can talk about some cases we've had, and things have changed. But the other side of faculty teaching competence is actually to take care of and develop the teaching competence that you already have. And there is quite a lot that can be done here to support faculty in doing the work that we have discussed. And we think it's a very important principle that you make demands that people should develop programs and courses, but you also have to weigh that with appropriate support so that there is a balance between what you want people to do and how much support they can get. You cannot just ask them to do things or force them to do things without also supporting them in doing it well. And there are, of course, already several initiatives in NTNU to support faculty who want to develop education. And a lot can be done actually in conjunction with the program development that you are hopefully going to start. And I would especially say, look at the good champions for good teaching that you already have and think about how to recognize and reward them, because the way their career plays out will also send very powerful messages to the others, whether it's worth engaging or not. I think you can send out some of your wonderful teachers to other universities so that they come home with inspiration for doing things differently. I actually had do you know Lars Lundheim? I had him on a sabbatical at KTH, and that was a lovely period, I have to say. To send more of his caliber. And it's also about having arenas where these things can be discussed and furthered. I'm thinking of the support as being enabling faculty in doing what they want to do, but also pushing them a little further and driving the change through the support systems. Right. So I'm trying to stop sharing now. Did it work?
Yeah. No.
You're sharing your desktop now, Christina.
Right. I don't want to share my desktop.
No.
Now I'm not sharing, right?
No.
Good. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Simon and Christina. I think, just as a small comment, I think that the main reason for people going to sabbatical is the research opportunity and collaboration in research, and to a much less extent to learn more about teaching. But that's my humble opinion. That's
yeah, but that's something that can be changed. You can say.
Yeah, I fully agree. But the current or past situation has been. So thanks a lot of. It's very interesting. It's slightly different than this morning, but the content is the same, but the examples and the comments are slightly different, as it always will be when you have presenting things. So this was very good, and I think also new insights to those of us that was in the morning meeting. So now I think we will open for questions and then comment from your side to the questions then. So hands in the air, people. There is Cecilia asked if our expert guest can comment on the full role of the industry stakeholders. Are more than awareness, but willingness to accept active roles by providing project cases, internship. Do you have this experience? How long does this take to emerge? And the international academics hasn't been. We have shielded them from the industry, so they have not had the opportunity to discuss directly with the industry.
So I'm asking about what their experience is at their universities.
Yeah, that's better then. So Simon.
Okay, I'm just reading, and okay, I understand the question now. Okay, you're saying that one thing is to have industrial representatives on reference in reference groups for curriculum development and so on. That's what I think you maybe mean by awareness. But then there is this next stage to be a little more in the operative role and to actually on a regular and a regular sustainable basis to be providing projects, regular projects, to make sure the people behind those projects are aware of and the goals and are aligned with the expectations of academia, internships, and so on. And how long does it take to emerge? Well, we all know about time constants in academia. 10 years is short, yes. There is experience at Chalmers, but this is a struggle for us. Of course, I think we have quite good involvement with industry, but it's a struggle all the time, and I'm sure you have this experience, particularly with master's thesis, internships, and so on. It's a struggle. And of course, as Christina said, that we don't really know where you're starting here because we have not had any discussion with your industrial panels. So we can't really benchmark and see if you have more or less where your involvement is, your level of involvement is today compared to where it is in the institutions we represent.
I think the word emerge is a little bit misleading because it's nothing that will like plop up by itself, but you will have to invest in those relationships and work both on the individual faculty level, but also the program level and specialization level to create and nurture those relationships. And I think what really helps is, of course, if faculty have industrial experience themselves. And it also helps if you have research collaborations. And time also helps, because you will have the past generations of students will be the industry representatives. So if you keep good track and good relationship with your alumni, you will have a very good seeding relationships that way. But there are no cheap tricks here.
No, agreed.
Maybe let Rune Hellevik, do you have any comments at this point in time?
Yes, well, I naturally have a quite number of comments, but I did not think of my role here as being the primary commentary. I would invite all faculty members here to try to give some of their comments and views on this. But like overall, I'm very happy with the thorough way the external panel has worked on the task they've been given, and they've done a great and very thorough job. Their observations are fully in line with what the faculty or we at the faculty level see and observe as well, and we also welcome their recommendations. And so we just have to work on how we're going to put these recommendations into operation. So apart from that, I think I will sit back and listen to what our faculty members have to say on what's been presented.
We had a very good and lively discussion with the MPT department the other day on Friday, and I know there's a lot of you present here. So and also with the KT and the EPT and students. So don't sit back. Now is the time to be outspoken and have the comments here. I don't. Yeah, Odne.
Yeah, I can start off. I think it's 2 points here that stands out to me, and one thing is about the vision and lack of sort of someone setting a vision and then creating things to fit that, rather than to pick existing courses and try to have a program around that. I think that is culturally it's an inherent cultural thing at the NTNU that the NTNU has to work on a general perspective. I think the other comment that is also important is the benefits from dedicating parts of the study seats to international students that are expected to come from outside. I think that can be an enrichment in many ways, and also, as said, help recruit in higher level graduate positions. But I think this sort of relates a bit to the framework of NTNU's funding, in that the government provides us with study places, and the government then pays for this and pays for it to be Norwegian seats or seats for people who are Norwegian citizens. And I think that's also a hinder that is challenging to deal with, and it's something that has to be decided on a much higher level on how to deal with this for these programs. I think that being said, once the students get into the last 2 years, there are a lot of 2-year master programs that are international, and where international students come to NTNU and take courses some of the courses that are in the PUP program together with them, and then you have a stronger internationalization. But it's also a danger for that being that you have sort of the Norwegians who have gone together for 3 years and are going to do the last years together, and then you have the group of the foreign students, and they're sort of they're the foreigners a bit, so maybe a Norwegian mentality, I don't know. But this is a challenge that I think is difficult to handle because of the framework that we're set underneath. But I think it would benefit the larger working environment to have a small portion of the seats dedicated for non-Norwegians as well. So that's sort of my feedback if I am to open this discussion, and hoping maybe other people will throw in their comments.
Okay, well, just a comment on that from my side. The Swedish situation is a bit different because we're part of the EU, of course, and we have the same. I recognize your discussion. We had it once upon a time, 20 years ago, we had these international master programs which had kind of special rules, and then other programs, and the EU basically was very instrumental in saying that you were not allowed to charge your incoming EU students from other EU countries and other member states more than your own students. So we had to actually change the rules of the game there. So that was done, but we do, of course, charge international students coming from outside of the EU. But we managed to do that, and that was also a painful process. It took time to get going. We didn't want students coming because the education was free. We wanted them coming because they thought Chalmers was a great place to get training. But that takes time, and it takes commitment. And I think it also, to get back to our recommendations, requires you have industry on board, because if industry says we need to be recruiting from a much broader pool of recruits, and we would like to have the best world best students available in trained, they're used to living here, they know the way the country works, and we need them as well. I think that's important to have them on board, because I think their voice probably carries quite a lot of punch in terms of convincing the government to rethink the rules of the game.
Could I comment on the first thing you said, because I thought that was so interesting, and it made me remember that's exactly what it was like at Chalmers, and that's exactly what it was like at KTH. You designed a program by sort of putting together the courses that you had on the shelf, more or less, and then you created maybe 1 or 2 new, and then you had a new program. And of course, that's a long time since I saw that happen. And the change from teachers having the course perspective to realizing that their course is a component of a program, and it creates a different logic. Actually, I'm not prepared to say that it was painful. I actually thought it was very stimulating for everyone involved. The internationalization had a few painful moments, and I don't know, Simon, if I can admit it, but at least from my side, it was deliberate to put the recommendation 2 as a separate one, because we realize that you are working under some specific, under a specific context where the Norwegian language and Norway's position in the world might differ from Sweden's or Denmark's. It's probably not at all just up to the PUP program how we want to handle this. So that's why we put it as a separate recommendation.
There is an eagerness from, at least for the last years, from the government that students go abroad for a half year, 1 year during the 5 years period. I'm a little bit less certain how eager they are that how many students should come in. And what I see in the international programs is that it's mainly students coming from Asia, Eastern Europe, Africa, to much less extent to Western Europe and United States. So even though they are not paying tuitions here, of course you have to have lodging and board and expenses. So still you are not able to attract the top tier Western and United States students. And that could of course be linked to the ranking of the NTNU compared, for instance, to Chalmers. We are, sorry to say, much below what the ambition of the university is. It should be higher, according to the rector and others. There is a hand. Maybe you guys see.
It's Truls first, and then it's Arild on the list.
Yeah, good.
I think.
If you can keep the track.
Okay, so I'll start.
Yeah.
I was a bit surprised about this language issue because it has been my understanding that from year 3 and up, if there is one non-Norwegian speaking student in the auditorium, we are expected to lecture in English. That is my understanding. How well this is conveyed to students in other countries, I don't know, but this is something that we should organize through the international office, that we explain. And when we do the planning of the courses, we can put Norwegian/English as language for the teaching. What I know, which is more of an issue, is that there are some courses where the teaching material is in Norwegian, and that is something that we should try to avoid. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Then I think next is Arild.
Yes. First, thanks for sharing your ideas. Thanks for doing a great job with evaluating us. I come from the Department of Structural Engineering. I didn't meet the international experts. Your meeting with our department's faculty was cancelled somehow. But I'm a vice head of the department and teaching coordinator. I fully agree with your observations on the program perspective. And the mechanical engineering program is quite complex because it involves 3 departments. And all 3 departments are also heavily involved in other study programs. So that in a way makes the situation somewhat complex and maybe also very messy for us. In parallel now, for instance, to take my department, we have a similar evaluation going on in the civil engineering study program. They will have their recommendations and observations, which might differ from what we obtained here. And then we of course have to handle that somewhere. But then to my question, because you know Swedish universities well and maybe also in Denmark. In Sweden and Denmark, is it more one-to-one between study programs and departments? No.
No, we have slightly different organizations at Chalmers and KTH. I think maybe the Chalmers example is best.
Yeah, I think we've reorganized the departments almost more often than we've reorganized the study programs, and that almost tells its own story, I think. That there is less and less mapping between the study programs and the engineering study programs and the departments. And of course it was different 20 years ago, but I think that's also been something maybe which has been has also allowed the president's office to, when they see a need to change the organization from an administrative perspective, from a reach out perspective, or from that they don't always feel bogged down by, oh, but we must keep the existing structure because that's what students, that's how we communicate the content of the engineering programs to our prospective students. So we have definitely unmapped that almost completely. I would say 80% disconnection now at this point. And you could comment on KTH.
It's a matrix organization. I mean, I could hear you saying you have a matrix organization, but one of the directions is so weak, so that I wouldn't call yours a matrix organization, because the program leadership is so weakly. It doesn't have access to the power and the resources. But we actually have more of a true matrix organization. So at Chalmers, it's the program that has the budget for all courses. That doesn't go to the departments. It goes to the program responsible office or person with a support office. So that I would call a matrix organization.
And to add to that, because we talked about that this morning, but the fact that there is a matrix organization, it's not only about shuffling money. It's actually more on a yearly basis. If someone else or another department thinks they could do a better job at teaching thermodynamics, they can submit an application and argument their case, and the program management can listen and say, well, do they have convincing arguments that they could do a better job than the existing group? Then sure, then they can make that decision right off. And that's created some interesting dynamics. Of course, mostly things continue. But every now and then there's a change, and the change can be initiated by the program managers who want to have a call, attend us, say we need a new course in this area, who's interested in providing it, but they can also listen to initiatives from elsewhere. Internal competition, essentially.
Okay, we will allow for a few more questions, and then we will close this part of the seminar and go to what the internal work has been going on. But Natasha, I think you are on the list now.
Thank you. Thank you for the report and this evaluation. Nice to hear, and I agree with many points what you found. But I have questioned this about this program, and like I agree with this with program and flagging the program and visions. It's but then we have started here at NTNU with something what you call this to promote good teachers. We started with this meriting. And you know, Lars Lundemar, maybe some of you were involved in evaluation of meriting in teaching, because we heard about some Swedish lobbying in this. So what is issue, what I see as one issue, if a program manager is deciding on courses, what is then independency of professor to fight for course and to be independent? Because when someone applies for professorship, should prove integrity in the course. But if we are like we have had, I must say that these leaders of PUP were very nice, or like very treating us professionally and with huge respect. I must say, I'm also involved in another program when sometimes when before I was younger, I was not treated in that way. So this is why I see a little bit conflict program and independence of professor, because university must push for this, that we get independent. Otherwise, I don't care if I'm not like this one thing. How you see this to solve. And another is what you see.
Can we start with that first question?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's a really good question, and I think you phrased it wonderfully also. So it has to be a dialogue. There is a dialogue between what the professors want to do, what they can do, and what the program needs. And I think it's important to keep the discussion on the level of learning objectives. because as a professor, you can accept to take on responsibility for some learning objectives. Like, for instance, in my course, students will not only learn the technical content, but they can also discuss it, they can present it, they can do an oral presentation, they can write reports, etc. So there are some skills also to it. And so I want to have a negotiation with the program. What is the contribution of this course to the program? But of course, what I can offer is really limited by my competence and by my interest and by how I see the course and the subject. And of course, the program manager has to work with that. But in many cases, we can actually support the development of faculty. So someone who says, actually, my subject has nothing to do with sustainable development. Well, maybe it does. If you we had a teacher, he said, actually, my subject has nothing to do with sustainable development. But then a colleague of his said, but come on, you teach optimization theory. All the sustainability problems are optimization problems. Why can't you use examples like that? And he said, oh, I never thought about that. So you can actually work with people and help them see the possibilities, the avenues that a course can be developed.
But then it means that this leadership of study program must be very also with vision, and the person who is program manager should be with vision both in teaching and research industry to get this big vision, as you say. Okay, sustainability is not only some fancy words, it's also optimization, it's to know techniques, it's okay.
And if you try to be a dictator, you will get nowhere.
Oh, okay.
You have to get people on board. You have to, and you
So this kind of profile for these program managers or program leaders or whatever we will call them. Okay, this is good. One more question. What I think you in Sweden, what I know from my colleagues from KTH and partially Chalmers, you achieve better link and synergy between industry, students, professors. Like we also, our master students are partially in company, partially work with us, but it's somehow a little bit separated. It's not pure synergy. We have idea, research project, and some part of research project some student may help by going to some company, and this link is really fluent. It's happening here and there, but it's not completely fluent. That I noticed this. I was also in MDH in Sweden. I saw this. Maybe they are doing this much easier because of ABB. But do you have any recipe for this so that we copy or at least try?
Recipes to copy? No, that's usually dangerous.
But suggestion, whatever.
Yeah.
So that industry get more open, and that we have this what we call annual circle where we suggest project assignments. We get students comments, so on. We also try with something called UROP, undergraduate research program. But is there something else to try to make much better engagement with students, industry, and us? So to make this flow somehow more efficient or more like more as natural, not sporadically coming every February we are doing this.
I don't think I have a quick answer.
No, okay. I don't either. And you have to
but I think
nurture your contacts is essentially what it boils down to.
And discuss this with.
Yeah. Okay. Good. No, just it's good that you don't have no answer. Maybe we will work out. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I think then we close this part of the seminar. And as I mentioned,
to stay or we should leave you.
That's up to you. You may leave if you.
I'll turn off my camera.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will. Well, thanks to all of you, and I may listen in for. I do have another commitment at 2:30. So, but I'll listen a little, at least your presentation of your report, Lord.
Yeah.
But thanks a lot to all of you and good luck from me.
As I mentioned to you, or most of you, because I don't everybody was on board when I mentioned it. Hopefully the draft report is out on the INSEAD web today or tomorrow morning, depending on the ability for the faculty to publish it. And then I hope that as many of you as possible to read it and comment. And there is also probably some errors in there. And of course we would like to correct any errors that is in there. There is probably also a printing error, but that's, if it's understandable, it's less problematic, but factual error is not good. So please come back. And then in the presentation on the web, then hopefully the email address for me and Ignat is printed there, so you can then come back to us then with so I will try to be quick here because this presentation is also then at the last minute attached to the call for the meeting, so you can go in there and study it. So this is the evaluation team and the methods that we have interviewed the companies, questionnaires, and also been talking. We and the international team been talking to a lot of people, and also the PhD students and the head of Smørekoppen and so on. And then this is also then a comment similarly to what you partly heard by the international team, that I think that when we present ourselves in a way that is not vision or mission statements is not very clear, then it's I also then said that I got the impression that we think that everything is fixed if we just update the presentation on the web. That's not the case, but it's anyhow it's important to modernize or update it, because this is the entrance for the student to apply to come to us. So for instance, this coming Christmas, a lot of students will sit at home and study the web pages for NTNU and select which study program they will choose with us or other places. So then it's important that I think that we are of interest to them. So then we have sent out the questionnaire to students, to the students that have been graduated the last 5 years, and also to the master student this spring. And what is nice is that they are relatively satisfied with the studies. They get job and over a very broad spectrum. So this is different from the was 15, 20 years ago, when they went to oil and gas or oil and gas service. They can use their skills, and they would like to have more teaching computer skill, use of computer programs, and learning and use coding in the whole study period. And also many of them mentioned machine learning. And I would like to have more contact with the industry related topics in teaching and study projects. And that in discussion then, I think that was on Monday, or maybe that was last week. One of the students then mentioned this is mainly then for or most critical then for the first 3 years, because I feel that at the first 3 years, they just been pushing to learn and not any why and how to, and then the relation to the industry problems. So that is something that they are eager to have, and then teamwork. Very quickly here, there you see the broad distribution of the companies then, and you can study that afterwards. And it's 13% roughly that is in other, and other is also then a lot of different things. So the students ends up almost everywhere, but mainly then related to the Muskegon area, because I said here somewhere outside of the mechanical engineering, 5.7% here, and a little bit more maybe here then. But at least 90% of the students, our students, then go into mechanical engineering or that industry in a little bit broader sense. And then you have the external or the international. Then mention the contact that we have with the Kongsberg Group and Ericsson, Horgen, Equinor, and so on. And they are looking for more computer skills. That the new students from us should be better in digitalization than the average current employee. But still deep learning, and also then digitalization and sustainability. So that is what they are looking for. And then we know and have noticed that there is quite an improvement in the first years of the POP teaching in the first 2 years. But this has to continue and has to be implemented on a much broader scale. So here is a very crowded figure, which I maybe time constraints, but it shows. So this is the first 2 years in common, and then in third year, then you have to choose the study line. So there's 4 study lines. And then in the fourth year, the colors here then represent the subject that you are being taught. And then the lines, the arrows shows connections between these towers. So this to the left is the industrial engineering, which I like to call themselves. Then it's the PUMA program, the industrial mechanics, and then the EPT. And as you see here, there is very little interdependence between these 4 different study lines, except then for one, the industrial mechanics. Then their students take courses from the others, and for instance, a lot of them come back to EPT and for fluid mechanics. But it's functioned more or less like 3 independent study programs. And when we have discussions then with the industrial engineering, and also then with in connection then with the RAMS program and so on, we see that, or I didn't tell you, the deep blue color here is the Faculty of Economics. So they have a lot of connection to the Institute or the Faculty of Economics, little with the others. And then Jørn Vatn, for instance, said that, we don't have time to teach them anything more from this other, because they know so little of our area when they come to us. So then we have to have this program then without any extra subject from the others. And vice versa then for EPT, with almost 90% coming from the EPT. So that's then led us, and also the international academics, to the observation that the POP program is fragmented, and it's not easy then to have a very clear vision with overriding these 3 different study programs. So how to do that is then also a challenge. And also then the sort of the negotiation which leads to that each of the departments will then have 2 courses in the first 2 years. Is that the optimal way for instance, for the industrial engineering, which are then not allowed to have any courses in the first. So the build-up, as the International said, is from the bottom up and not from driven from the top. And then also we see that this thing that the EPT is together with Puma, which was used to be called in older days. We don't find that at Chalmers or MIT. That could very well be that you find it at other universities. But they have one program for industrial engineering. They have one for engineering for sustainable development. And then you have the mechanical engineering also done with applied mathematics, which will be the same, I would say, then as industrial mechanics, more or less, on the other side. And then there is some cross, so you could switch and take master thesis going from the industrial engineering to the sustainable and also into electrical engineering. So there is some possibility for free thinking late in the courses, but that's mainly then from the two programs on the edges, and not so much in the middle. And the same, similar then at MIT. So then that's then led us to a discussion, and there's been some criticizing then that the evaluation committee has then come up with a solution, and not just the evaluation, but we have been thinking about maybe it will be better so that you will have part of the EPT then together with the EMIL program, and then create one study program for electric energy, one for sustainable energy, and one for sustainable efficient production. This name is not accepted that well by the people in that area, so there should be a better name. And there is some initial contact, and not from my side, but with Geir Ovren, then towards the Faculty of Electricity, the EE faculty, and also some very initial so small talks to the NV faculty, so that maybe this could be a way that then sustainable energy could be an improved version of EMIL, and with influx then from EPT. And this is also then maybe more easy to create a new program from the top down if you have this program done. But that is just ideas, not any decision whatsoever at this point in time. This is something that if the faculty or the dean would like the project to look at that will be in the fall, and that's not up to for me in the evaluation to say much more about. But anyhow, in the report, and this idea about the potential process to evaluate a potential split is mentioned then. So that is something that we in the project recommend that the faculty should look into. And then maybe I'm overly enthusiastic, but I think that this happening that you more likely than not will have one or maybe two large-scale battery plants in Norway in 5 years' time, and the very strong teaching we have in industrial engineering, is there not important work for us for teaching in that? So I think that's something that we should, or the faculty should discuss. Is there a room for the engineering technology faculty then to teach parts of what is needed and for people that we are going to work in the battery production industry. And then we proposed that we should rewrite the POP in the web pages, and then also then take a note of what seems to be the new slogan for NTNU. NTNU's technology programs graduate creative world-class candidates who are able and willing to contribute to a better world and a sustainable future. So if you have been looking into the web pages that we have currently, the companies, the external, the international academics, the PhD students, and many of you then say that it's not easy to see mission or vision statements in line with something like that. And in today's world, I think this is important because quite a lot of students are very much engaged in thoughts and would like to do something like that. And if you look then at web pages from other study programs, they have done a change or been quicker than us to adapt to this. And I think that we should do it this year because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of students will in fact more or less decide during Christmas where they would like to go. For instance, first then would they like to go to Trondheim to NTNU, or would they like to go to some other universities in Norway or abroad? But if I'm going up to Trondheim, what would I like to study? And that's then important. If this new vision statements and ambitions and things like that on top leads to a large change in POP or splitting or not, we think that it's important that the students should learn coding, use of digital tools in many courses. Because what I heard, then maybe I mentioned it earlier already, that they learn too little. They learn one introductory course in the first year, and then at the fourth year, then suddenly it's required for them to use rather advanced digital tools. And in between, then they have more or less forgotten everything they learned in the first year. And machine learning, what that is about, and the importance, coming importance is important. And then I think that a comment then is that the industry said that I don't would like our students to be the nerds of the computer world, but I would like us to teach the student enough understanding so they can be part of a multidisciplinary team and have discussion then with the people that do the coding and the construction of the program and so on. So to be a level that you understand what's going on and can make requirement and for changes. It's quite obvious, I think, that the students should learn to include evaluation of sustainability, environmental impact as a key element in the future work. On the teaching should continue to be deep, but I think we will have to have the discussion then similarly to the work that IE has done with the mathematics. Is it possible then to tailor-made mathematics better to the needs of when our students come to the higher classes of the IB? Work in cross-disciplinary teams and more with less well predefined problems. And as I mentioned also earlier, the industry relevant and understand why we are learning it, and then also then we use to apply the tools that you think that you are solving, not just learning the basic, but also then to solve things. And then it's also then back to the, I think, to the discussion that we had then also, for instance, with Natasha, and also the question to Christina and Simon. My impression, and I'm very new. I was in the board of the IB faculty many years ago, but my understanding or my impression is that we have lost some of the very close contact with the industry in the recent years. That could be wrong, but anyhow, I think it's important then to strengthen the contact with different companies. And the our thinking is that maybe then we should first stand with the one plan in the POP area that is currently the working title Klima Shift, which will then reflect also on the potential but not decided splitting of the POP together and merging with partly then with EMIL. And there is a contact then with several of the big companies which will be important in the green shift in Norway. And so I think that's maybe they want to start. And then later on, when the faculty then have been able to do the running then and recruited the people that will be able and willing to run a similar program related to advanced product development and production, or with a much better name than with somebody will tell me what should be. I know that MPT and KT already had a good contact with relevant companies, but I think that should be strengthened and formalized even better. But this takes time and efforts, and we have to use you have to use the student that you have educated and know are important contact persons in different companies. So strengthen the ties then, and better working on the alumni that, for instance, we know from United States is very important. And then it's maybe too little written about teaching, and the international academics had lots more, and also the future technology studies seem to there seem to be a decision by the management, the rector, that we should put more emphasis on teaching and teaching recognition and teaching and education of teaching and so on. And we heard then quite a lot from the international, and we also been told that we should, or you should come to Chalmers or to Stockholm and to learn even more how this is operated. And then the problem or the challenge with that we are losing talents on the women's side, because there are only 20-25% of the women that's coming to us are females. So this student network that has been started now is important that it's continue to be supported by the UV faculty and the departments. And it's also important that the faculty project to recruit more women to permanent faculty position that continue and be strengthened, because this is not a challenge that is solved in one afternoon. And then the way forward then, today, 16th June, the external academics and mainly, and a little bit of the internal team presented the findings and recommendations to the steering committee. And then we are now in the middle of, or towards the end of the evaluation presentation seminar. I have asked the Sara Edin to publish the draft report today for review and feedback. And then we have said 28th of June to publish the report. That could be a little bit earlier, but that's a good day because probably because on the 19th, and there's not me, but Geir Obren from the improvement project then goes to the faculty management to ask for support for continue in the folder and to work on the recommendation and to improve them to a level where they can then be subject to send to different approval bodies at the university. And also then start to work on improvement revision of different læring utbyttebeskrivelser in the study programs and individual courses. But just a comment here, because when we put together the project in February, we got people in from all the departments, and we have had a lot of meetings, but we are not been successful in a process where they are more actively contributing. They have more been observers to what we have been telling them. So my strong advice for the fall is that the improvement project then must be much better than we have been in the spring, to engage a much broader part of the faculty employees. Also because this is not a project of somebody telling people what they should do. This is a process of working to improve the program and the courses, and that's requires much broader participation than we have been able to, or design have been able then to do. I think that's there is also a couple of slides on the 2 years master programs. We have later today or tomorrow morning I will call the meeting with the manager of those master programs. So I think it's with the broad representation we have today. I think it's better now to open for discussion than from all of you then, or comment, and if there is a question, if somebody had read the 2 large pages, of course I'm more than willing to try to explain and the thinking and why it's written like it is. So thank you. Thanks a lot for listening. So
It's total silence. Nobody want to comment or questions or criticize or whatsoever. We really want the thing we want most is real discussion. So please don't be afraid.
When we have meetings at the KT, and then Kalle, the manager of the department, he always said that he then could talk more or less just talk for a few minutes, then so the other people then could engage and ask questions. But I think now you have been talking a little bit again, and myself, so I hope that we see the hands soon now.
Leif Rune is hand up, I see.
Yes.
So you
So
take the
there were-
role of your boss, or Leif Rune? So you are going to...
Yes.
Yes, come on.
In my role here, I represent the faculty, and first of all, I'd like to thank Rolf and the evaluation team, consisting of Rolf himself and Ignat Tolstorov, Asbjørn Rolstad, Geir Ovren, Roy Johnsen, Trygg Magne Eikevik, Nils Petter Østbø, Lars Petter Bryne, og Sture Hoppestad, and some students, Magnus Dale Johnsen and Mona Andrea Sosa Berge. Hope I have covered them all, for having completed a very thorough evaluation and ending with an impressive list of recommendations, which is very much in line now with the recommendations of the external panel. And the work represents, in my opinion and the faculty's opinion, an excellent outset to implement changes needed to improve our program along the lines of the recommendations, to ensure that we can provide candidates to the industry and the society at large who can be there to solve the future challenges like climate change and green shift and all those buzzwords, and to still be able to attract top-tier students. So the outset is here, the evaluation is here, and it provides an excellent ground for actually starting to work now on how we can position ourselves to meet those challenges. And apart from that, I will not comment too much currently. I will invite all faculty members to take the chance now to question and to discuss and comment upon any issues that have been presented in the report, because this is a time to do it. So with those words, I will encourage all faculty members to engage.
It is one question in the chat, I think. He asked for slide number 9. I can't remember. I guess it is the complicated Ignat figure, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a complicated figure, and I'm just wondering if it's in addition explained, or it just was made for this report and it would be available in the report. Just to contemplate on this figure more.
Yeah, Andre, it's in the report, and then hopefully also explained a little bit better in the report that I've been able to do here. So it's in there, yeah. So it's not just for the presentation. It's one of the figures in the report.
I just will add that we struggle a lot. There's a lot of numbers behind this figure. We really struggle to really try to unite something by the dependency of all the courses, and also to unite with the student flow really through the study lines and the study program. We tried several ways to really try to illustrate it, but in the end we ended up with this figure, and I think it by this color use it's really somewhat giving a signal of the or showing the quite fragmented or the loss of lack of structure in the program. Therefore we kept it and used it, but the problem is it takes a lot of time if you're going to explain everything which is contained in it. So.
Thank you. And I don't know if I expressed that today, but it's Ignat been both doing the hard work of finding the interdependencies and designing the figure. So I'm used to McKinsey when I was working for Statoil, and they are master in the production of illustrative figures, and so this is, I think, Ignat is competing very well with McKinsey.
Okay.
But this is also then based on Marriott, not always the case with McKinsey.
So you know, Ignat, you know where you can apply a job.
Seaman.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Since no one else is asking questions, thank you very much for the report, which contains a lot that we need to think about and come back to. I would just like to say thank you for highlighting the image problem that I think we have, that the students sort of, in a way, get the wrong impression of the study that they start with. If you look at the difference between produktutvikling and produksjon in Norwegian and mechanical engineering, they are not translations of each other. And to give the students the impression that actually this is, we have a lot of green content. There's a PR thing that is almost a no-brainer to do immediately and requires no restructuring. So this is very good. I am also very much a supporter of changing the Norwegian name produktutvikling or produksjon. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah. Yeah, my camera is not working, maybe. Okay, but in this figure we have the first and second year in the PUP program. So in the report, the main recommendation, one of them is to evaluate to split, or consider splitting the PUP program in separate parts. How will this first 2 years be in this sustainable energy program? Will there be many common courses for the programs?
I am in the lucky position that I'm just the evaluator. So to design of the program, that's something that will happen in the fall, I think. So maybe you, Geir, can answer, but maybe you also, it's just you said it's a little bit earlier, or you know what will be.
But I think Knut knows most of what we could answer, and I think most of the first 2 years, you know, are according to internal regulation. I think there are a few degrees of freedom we have, and the most important degrees of freedom is this PUP string, then.
Yeah, and of course there are maybe 6 or 7 courses that could be changed. So I see if we have a situation that the first 2 years will be common courses anyway, then we are in the same situation as before. But then the other solution is that's a task for EPT to develop new courses to put in these boxes in the first year.
We saw that, for instance, I think Ignat had to correct me if you're wrong now, but I think that you saw at the MIT and Chalmers that they don't have at least some of the students that didn't have 2 courses on thermodynamics and fluid mechanics. They had 1 combined. So if there is a split of the EPT and Emil, and then not belonging to the same, there is also freedom, and then I think there should be also a negotiation with the mathematics department to see for is there opening for the course in the 2 first year. Leif Rune, for instance, in one of the meetings complained that they had the numerical methods in the 4th year, and that should be learning that much earlier, in his opinion. I think the whole design of the program then must be more open and thinking what is the best fitted places for different courses then.
Yeah, I think Leif Rune has the hand up.
Yeah, it follows along these lines. So I think this paradigm and thinking of that the first years are out of our hands is not there anymore. We have had for some time some initiatives where we try to discuss with the math department and also the computer science department on the content of the first introductory courses in mathematics and programming, and also the introductory courses on the domain-specific course, for in this case the course that Knut is alluding to, and I believe that you are aware of this initiative, Knut, the BOSS project, the Computational Engineering Education project, and in this is also a project which takes into account this program-driven thinking and philosophy. Is that mean we have to make the courses build on each other and to interact in some way with each other. But of course, in the first few years, then it's even more challenging than later on, because in the first few years, then we have to discuss with the providers at other departments, at other faculties. But these dialogues are now, I would say, mature. On Monday, 21st, the upcoming Monday, we will have a seminar with, which is initiated by Frode Rønning at the Department of Mathematics. They have a project called MARTA, Mathematics as a matematikk som en ressurs, redskap for tanken, and the BOSS project, and also other, also FTS. So the overall goal here is to make those links better. So it can end with that the mathematics department will provide, say, 3 or 4 different variants of the introductory math course, which is tailored to the specific programs that kind of buys their course. So it's not the case anymore that the first few years are out of our hands. We are in the process. So this is, I think, a very welcomed initiative. So, and I've myself been working very hard for that initiative for quite some years. So I think this is very much in line with the program-driven approach. And so that was in terms of mathematics and computational science. We are also in the process of discussing sustainability. How, and I mean, it should be an integrated competency, which is not taught in just one course. I mean, this is also going to be an outcome of the process we have that you should all, I guess you all are aware of at the faculty level and also in the departments, that we are to develop our skills on sustainability. One part of that is to discuss with those provide the department that provides the XPhil course. Could they provide more sustainability in their course? And that will be then in the first semester. So that's one part. And then we also have on our agenda to discuss with those who provide the course teknologiledelse. So those are elements, but it's not the complete answer to the questions. But my short answer is that there is not sort of no access to us for the first few years. We can also attack that. I hope that was an answer to Knut's question.
I think then it's time for thanking you all for participating. We have had, I see there's popping up some emails here about providing materials. Of course, we'll do that. And then the draft report will be out soon. And I also have said that because so far we have not been able to have a meeting with the EPT, and they said that we could have a meeting there next week with them. We will have a meeting with the 2-year master programs, and then for myself, the 2nd of July, I will then drive down the west coast of Norway with the Telemark as the final goal. So for those of you that I don't see later in June, I wish you all a nice summer, and then come back with a lot of energy working on improvement of the courses and programs at our faculty. We are good, but we should be even much better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.